Now, before moving on the texturing part, a couple of little disclaimers. First one, I'm not an expert on Copernicus. This is my first serious attempt using it. I always used Substance, Painter, and Designer so far, but the principles are pretty much the same. So my workflow may not be the best one, but it works for me. And in the end of the day, that's what really matters. To me, as long as you understand what you're doing and you are doing it for a reason and it works, that's good enough. And second disclaimer, I will use Karma CPU. I'm having some major issue with Karma XPU. My system does basically crash and reboot with a black screen of death every time I try to render with Karma XPU. And the cause seems to be a GPU related process, which has something to do with one of the latest Windows 11 update. I'm troubleshooting and debugging this thing for days, and I'm at the point where the next thing to try is a complete format, because Windows 11 doesn't have a proper rollback system because it's trash, and I wanted to finish the video first. So I will use Karma CPU. You can use XPU or CPU, it doesn't matter at all for the final result. So let's start by texturing the vase. It will be quite simple. Inside the vase geometry container, let's drop down a cop network. We will call this cop vase, and we want to work. I will do a 4K, but for now let's set it to 2K. And now we can go inside. In here, we can take a preview material and a SOP import, so we can take the vase geometry, the out vase, and plug it to the geometry so we can have a preview on the mesh. So for the base, we are going to use the base color, roughness, and the normal. So right away, I want to create 3 null. One will be out base color, out rough, and out normal. And we will use these nodes as reference both for writing texture and to reference inside Karma. So this will be fed into the base color, roughness, and normal. So like this. So we will start with the roughness and the normal. We want to take 2 remaps that will be directly fed into the final null, both because so we have a final control for the minimum and maximum value, and also because the remap by default clamps the range outside 0 and 1, and this will help us to avoid weird behavior in the texture. So let's take a fractal noise. By default, if we display the noise, we do have something like this. So out of convenience, let's plug this to a null so we don't have to replace the output while we build this guy. And also take a height to normal node because we need to convert this black and white map in some normal map. And we want to lower the amplitude, let's say to 0.1 just for now. So if we display the geometry, we should already have some feedback. Yes, lower this amplitude way down, so something like 0.01. And for the lighting, for testing beside the previewing in Karma, let's enable this new icon and let's try with a dome light. This will enable some sort of high quality lighting inside the viewport. It's very convenient while working with Copernicus. So for the first noise, let's maybe choose some Perlin one, and we want to increase the element size, so like 0.1, and you can play also with roughness and everything else inside. This whole process is basically just stack a bunch of noise and having something nice on the texture. I also want to increase the amplitude and everything else, something like this. So we basically act only on some parts. And now we want to multiply right away this noise with another one. So this will be in the background, and copy and paste and switch the input. And let's see, on the normal, let's lower it even more, a tenth of it. And on the remap for the roughness, so I want to set it from 0 to 1 to 0.9. And on the remap for the normal, let's cramp out some values, something like this. So here, let's check the multiply node. Let's select the second noise, and we want always to change the offset when stacking up noise. Otherwise, we risk to end with the same result. And maybe change the element size a little bit. This time we want, let's say, 0.6 on the amplitude. Little bit more of roughness, and this time change it to torus, so we'll have something different. And it's a subtle thing for now, but this is how it works out for me. I just basically stuck a bunch of those all together. So let's go back on the multiply. Let's duplicate the first noise, duplicate the multiply, the result will be in the background, and we will add a third noise on it. So replace also this. And this time maybe lower the overall multiply here. Let's see. Let's decrease the element size, something like this. And we want a lot more roughness and reset here. So basically we are introducing some less reflective area. Also change the offset, and let's duplicate once more. So switch input like this, and this time we want to perform another operation. We want to perform the maximum. So basically this time we are adding values, and we want to add very little of it, so something like 0.1. And on the noise itself, let's crank up the amplitude, maybe the center a little bit, and we want something even more little this time. Change the offset, maybe tweak the roughness a little bit. Then for the final stack of the base noise, let's do a final blending. Let's duplicate these guys. We want to set it back to multiply. This will go in the background, and let's copy the noise for the foreground. So let's switch inputs. And let's see, this time multiply something like 0.65. And for the noise, let's see, let's try to set something like back to torus, so we have a different one, and change the offset. And this time is for some darker spots. And let's try to shift the center to something like this. And also in the noise, you have some post-processing options, so we can clamp the value also and introduce something like this. And also we want to remap this final noise. Right now it's too dark, so let's clamp the minimum, something like 0.8, and actually reverse it to something like this. So here basically we added some darker, very confined spots. So let's save it and check the geometry. And we do have some nice bass noise. So just for convenience, let's create a box. I never question myself about how they are called. A network box. Create a network box for this. This will be the bass noise. And I also want to add something like an horizontal streak to this. So we will do another network over here. Now, this won't affect the roughness, just the base color. But since we modeled or rather we created UV of the vase like this, which is basically just an horizontal line, we can create a shape in Copernicus to create this trick that we want. So basically here we want to take an SDF shape, set it as a rectangle, convert it to mono, so we have a black and white image, and we will use this image to drive a ramp, so mono to RGB, and we want to plug this to the out base color. So if we display the mesh and we change the shape of the rectangle, so we want to have something like this. So let's say something like this, and we want to increase the size in the X, so we won't have this seam over here. Now I want to distort this shape, but the UV layout placed the UV right on the bottom, so let's go back here for a second. And you know what? Get rid of this UV layout, so delete the node, recache the geometry. So now we need to adjust the translation of the shape, but that's pretty easy. Let's say something like this. So now we can safely distort this guy because it's not at the bottom. So take a distort by slope. We want to place it before the we want to work with the mono value for now. So this will be the source, and for the distort, it will give us an error because we need something to distort the image. So take a fractal noise, plug it here, and it's already working. So let's see here, we want to lower the angle a little bit, and on the noise, let's lower the element size, and we want something less complicated for now. So let's lower the roughness a very good amount, and also change the offset, you never know. And now let's rearrange this guy and duplicate it. We want to distort it even further. So let's adjust the output here. And here, let's see if something needs to be changed. I believe just to be on the safe side, let's clamp the border so we don't have any distortion here. Same thing on the second, but for the second noise, we want a very low angle. So let's say something like 16. And this time we want to crank up the element side. So let's say something like this, and introduce back some roughness. So maybe 0.4. Change the offset. And now we want to basically take out the central part of this trick in a not so contrasted way like the outside. So basically we want to take a transform 2D on this image, take the invert of it, and this will be fed into a multiplied. So let's make some room over here. Basically we want to multiply this as the background and this as the foreground. Now basically we have only the final seams, but what we want to do is to scale this guy a little bit. So basically something like this, but we want a more blurred result for the inner part. So let's make some more room. And here before the invert, we want to take a streak blur, connect it here after the transform. Here we want a 90-degree angle, so it will go on the vertical side. And we want to break up this uniform blurring right now. So let's take a noise. We will plug this into the scale length. And for the noise, let's set it. Let's lower the element size. So let's say half of it. increase the roughness, and we want to clamp it a little bit. So let's say something like this. And we want a more vertical orientation. So this basically will break up the element sides vertically and horizontally. And we want to create something like this. So maybe 7. Let's change the offset and increase the amplitude all the way up. And actually here, instead of doing a multiply, let's adjust the output. Let's do a difference. Where is it? Difference. So basically we will map this as the darker part and this as the lighter one. So let's preview the geometry. And we want to adjust this color, of course. So on the mono RGB, let's set some dark gray value and some lighter one, something like this for now. And where is it? The main streak. We want to take this thing all with the invert. This is the multiplication, I mean the difference. We want to feed this into a remap and maybe clamp the output min a little bit, so let's say 0.2. And this, let's create a null, will be the base streak. But now we want to add some more noise in the inner part. So basically we want to take a fractal noise and we will do another multiply. The base streak will be the background, the noise will be the foreground. So right now it's on all the UV space, but we want to use this the output from the distort number 2. So let's create some dots with the Alt key. And basically we want to use this to drive the mask on this guy. So we will have something like this. As for the noise, let's decrease the element size. And also this time we want something really vertical. So something like this. Change the offset and increase the amplitude to something like this. Also we want more roughness, a little bit more. So I basically want something like this. And on the multiply, we can lower it to something like 0.5, I guess. And let's add yet another one. So this will go in the background. Let's duplicate this noise. Will go on the foreground. And this time no mask. We want to apply some noise on the whole thing. So let's crank up the amplitude all the way to 1. Maybe raise up the center and do some tweaking. We can also use some Perlin noise this time, and we don't want a different element scale. This needs to be an overall noise. So change the offset. So we want something like this. And maybe let's add a very light blur after the remap here. Not this much. Let's add another 0. Maybe this is way too low. 0.2. Why? Oh, I am bypassing it. So let's say something like this, very subtle, just to don't have that harsh edge. So let's rearrange all of these. So let's say this is the base streak, this is the multiplication, and now we actually want to combine those two together. So we can take this as the background. So this is what we are currently using as the base color, and we want to take the base noise we are using for the roughness. Let's lower it to something like 0.5-ish, and this will be fed into the mono to RGB. So let's see what's happening on the geometry. And what I want to do now is to take height to ambient occlusion using the output of the base noise for it. So if we highlight it and we want to increase this height scale to something like 0.1, so we have all the details coming from the occlusion simulated on this 2D noise. And let's duplicate the mono RGB and fed this new input to it. So here basically we want to introduce some mid-gray, something like this, and then some other value, something like I don't know, a sand color, something like this. And we want to mix this with the base ramp we are generating. So connect these two guys together. And here we want to change the mode to color. So now we can introduce some variation on the value itself. So let's set it to something like 0.2. And this will be our base color. So we do have something that is not completely gray. And finally, we want to use this eye to ambient occlusion also for the roughness and the normal. So we want to take another blend node and the base noise will be our background. But before going into the two remaps, we want to blend it with this eye to ambient occlusion. And let's set the mode to multiply. And we want to introduce just a little bit. So let's say 0.2. So if we replace the output and we can delete this null at this point, let's preview the geometry. I believe that's it's something that I like. And basically we are done with the base. For the other mesh, I will sort of fast forward for the operation we already did. So for the dirt, I won't go over this noise stacking again, but we will see on like how to scatter these stones on the dirt because it's not something we already did.